We have a busy agenda. We have approval, A&R plan for 12 Union and 59 Brigham. We have a lot release request for Ridings 2, continuation of the public hearing for site plan review at 161 Milk, continuation of the public hearing for Village Commons, continuation of the public hearing at 134 Fisher, continuation of the public hearing for 165 Flanders. We have an update on the MBTA public info and other various business. But I'd like to do the ridings first, just because the next three would be all with WDA. So maybe we can get the ridings people in and out of here, if that's okay. So I know that's a little bit different than on our meeting packets, if anybody has a problem with me moving that around. All right. So, James, just name and go ahead.
Chairman, I'm James Tatro from Azimuth Land Design.
Silva.
More than one copy of that.
Better.
All the same.
The same. Of Union. There's nothing in the writings. Looks like not.
Okay, so this is on the back page. Just take the first page. It's our updated memo.
Yeah.
All the
Does anyone else
documents,
see one?
probably.
No, we've passed these around, so give those to Kristen.
Oh, that's the reason I didn't have it, okay.
All right, James, go ahead when you're ready.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure just how much presentation is really needed here. The request is to get lot releases of 9 lots. I'm just here because there was some question after just the recent storm event. Were there any issues with the design or configuration of the detention basin? And I did a quick supplemental drainage report, sent it along, and just to boil it down as quickly as possible, and I'm sorry, I'm not too good at that, but right now the detention basin is being used as a temporary settling basin. The 2 of the outlets in the head wall are capped, so that water will be captured in there, and so things can settle out. And right now, much of the site is still open. So the question, when we had in this recent rain event some overflow out over the outflow spillway, I did a little supplemental drainage report, looked at, okay, if you take into account those 2 outlets are capped and you take into account that some of the area which is presumed to be in the finished condition lawn is open ground at this point, what result do you get? And the answer is for approximately 12-hour, approximately 4-inch storm in these conditions, you get actually just what we saw. The question was, I think, was this an anomalous event? Does this event show that there's something wrong with the basin? And the answer is no. There's a couple of factors that are pushing it towards that result, which were the capped outlets and the condition of the upstream watershed.
So, James, I appreciate you coming in. I know the board may have questions, but Jenny, I think most of the engineering and conservation, could you give us an update on those issues? I think those have been resolved to the point where we can look at releasing lots, but I just want to hear from you.
Yeah, so I did discuss this with the engineering department and the conservation department, and they are comfortable with the release of the 9 lots. They did receive that updated drainage report today and haven't had a chance to review it, but even with that, they're comfortable with the release of the 9 lots. They've made other changes and gotten up to date with the existing conditions of the subdivision.
Okay, questions from the board?
Do we have a sufficient bond to cover any problems that are going to arise with that?
Yes, there's the tri-party agreement that was done recently, and there's also an erosion control security that we have.
And the engineering feels that's sufficient to cover any problems?
Yes.
Further questions? Well, I do appreciate the diligence on this because it's a pretty sensitive site. There's a lot of neighbors downhill from there, so Does somebody want to make a motion?
I move the planning board to release lot numbers LL 27, LL 29, LL 31, LL 33, LL 35, LL 37, LL 39, LL 41, and LL 43, shown on a plan entitled The Riding's Definitive Open Space Subdivision in Westborough, Massachusetts, dated April 23rd, 2019, and as revised on a plan entitled Plan of Land prepared by MJG and Associates dated October 12, 2023, and recorded with the Worcester District Registry of Deeds at Plan Book 974, page 69.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, people.
Good luck. All right, next item, we'll move to, back to item 1 on the agenda, which is 12 Union Street, A&R. Randy, do you want to address the board on this? Okay.
I think you had the plan up there, Jen. Can you do that?
Second.
There we go. So good evening, Randy Waterman from WDA Design Group, and I also have Michael Grossworth from my office. He's a registered landscape architect, and he's been working on the plans with me very diligently on the last couple of weeks. And then Jamie Anderson, you may have met. He is from Grossman Development. They are the current owners of the Bay State property, other than the warehouse building way in the back. We're here tonight to present an approval not required plan to change 2 of the building lots that were shown on the original plan when we permitted this through the D-POD zoning back in 2005. And so essentially just 2 of the building lots change. On the A&R plan, it's kind of stretched out because there's a total of 250 acres in the property. But the top view on this sheet, the overall site locus, is probably a good place to start. Up in the top left corner of that plan, you can see the terminus of Brigham Street, the cul-de-sac. Right above that is building 1100, and then to the right of that is the former BSC sports facility. That is the building that the town wants to purchase. And so this plan is being created to cut frontage off of Brigham Street to create that building lot, which is called G6 on this plan, and that's a total of 3.75 acres. And by cutting that land off and creating frontage off of Brigham Street, we've made that a conforming building lot in the Depot District. And what that does is that terminates the lot G5 to the left of it. That's the Bay State Commons property, the retail center. So basically, we're taking 3.7 acres from that retail center, and that used to connect over to the right, and in the back, down at the bottom of this sheet, G7, let me actually, if you can go up to the warehouse building in the center, yeah. So right under that is there's an open space parcel, G7. So that's the remainder of the land that was connected to Bay State Commons. So after meetings with Fred and with Jenny, and we really looked at hundreds of different ways to try and do this as simple as we could, but essentially it means changing these 2 building lots, the Bay State retail lot and this open space lot, and then C4 on this plan is the lot that has the landfill that was just recently capped. So basically, in the end, you can see down on the enlargement here, at the end of Brigham Street, you can see the new building lot, which is called G6. It's 3.75 acres. That is the lot that the, if you go down just to the bottom, yes, thank you, right there. So you can see that is the building lot for the senior center and recreation area for the town. We don't show the parking on this A&R plan, but there are 196 dedicated spaces on that lot itself for the town's use. 6 of those are handicapped, so it meets handicap requirements. And then you can see the parking easement down at the bottom of that plan. There's another 87 parking spaces in that area that would be shared with the Bay State owners and with the town. So essentially, that's the purpose of this A&R plan. The second sheet just shows one small lot line change over a little further right, there we go. Right above where it's labeled G7, we're just connecting the lot up there so that we've closed lot C4 so that all of the landfill, this is a DE requirement, all of the landfill on C4 is now contained on that lot, whereas before some of that used to be on the retail lot. So that was just a requirement of the state. But that's really the function of this plan, is to change those lots so that we create a building lot for the new town building.
Okay. Questions? So, no other questions? Okay. Randy, that new lot G7, the 29-acre lot, that is supposed to be protected as open space?
Yes.
Is that going to be with some type of conservation restriction, or how is that protected?
Yeah, I mean, we can do what, I'm not sure we've talked through, specifically how they would do it. We certainly don't want to go through a conservation restriction with the state and go through all the filings that would be necessary, but they could, what we thought we'd do is probably just list it as an open space lot or on the deed, or we could do a conservation easement over that piece of property that says it's not, I mean, that's most of the wetland area, and which is in the ACEC, so it's
Well, it's protected by the wetlands bylaws.
it's pretty much
Is
not
that
buildable.
open space, the open space for Bay State Commons? In other words, is that required for them to meet the,
Well, no, in
it's a-
the D-pod, because this was done through the D-pod, there's no requirement for open space. So when this was done originally, you remember those lot lines have been there since the late 80s. And so we just left that connected so that we could say the 22 acres that are being built in the front would have this as open space. So when we talked to Jenny and Fred about how do we cut this all up so it still works, the idea was, well, let's just keep that as open space so it's not going to be built on, not that it really could. But the planning board needs to modify the special permit to do this, and so that's a filing we've already made with the board, and we're on, I think, for a one-stop meeting on the 20th, and then a public hearing on the 9th, and that would be a request to modify the D-pod special permit and site plan review so it jive with this plan, essentially.
okay. And they didn't want to just deed it over to conservation and retain the parking easement?
I don't think the town has interest in taking any of this land just because the potential environmental hazards that might be in there, you'd be testing forever. And so I think it was just, Grossman Development owns it and they would just keep it.
Okay. That was my only question. Jenny, any comments?
No, I don't have any other comments.
Okay, do we have a
Meets all
motion?
of the requirements.
I move that the planning board endorse the A&R plan entitled Approval Not Required Plan of Land, lots C4 and G5, G6, G7, prepared by WDA Design Group and dated December 6, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're going to stay up here, Randy, for 161 Milk?
And Jenny, do we have to sign this as a planning board, or can you sign it on our behalf?
No, I can sign it.
You can sign it on our behalf, okay.
That's at the end, we'll do it. It's not in order not in the same order. Next item on the agenda is continuation of the public hearing for site plan review at 161 Milk Street. Jenny, do you have any opening remarks on this?
So I included in my memo a list of the updated documents, and everything has been reviewed by the engineering department and conservation. I believe that the applicant is still in front of Conservation Commission. However, that wouldn't prohibit the planning board from moving forward with this. And there were some additional comments received from the fire chief and the active transportation committee, which were distributed, but nothing that hasn't already been reflected.
Okay. Randy, any comments?
I'm not sure I heard all of that. It's,
Sorry, I was just saying, on my memo, I listed all of the updated documents that have been sent in since we last met.
Yep.
And then there were a couple additional comments received, but everything has been distributed. Actually, back in September, the fire chief made comments, and then the active transportation committee just had comments about the B-Walt Trail, but those have already been taken care of.
that's all been addressed?
Yes, they've all been addressed.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think at this point, we had received peer review comments, and on November 27th, we responded to all of those. We think we've addressed everything, hopefully. We modified the plans, and all that's been submitted, and the board has seen that, and the other department heads and so forth. So I think Jenny's draft decision sounded like was a support for approving the special permit and site plan review. So we're here just, I think, to address any questions that we have. But let me introduce, I think you know Mark Johnson, he's the applicant on the project. He would be the one that'd be rehabbing the former skating rink building, and then also building the new building would be for his own office. He's already located here in Westborough. And then this is Kristen Braun from Chappelle Engineering. They're the traffic engineers on the project. So we asked them to attend as well in case there were last-minute questions that might come up. I think the other thing, just to point out, I think this is really a very positive project. Sometimes, things aren't, maybe not preferred use of a site or something by the town, but in this case, there's a building that's been sitting there vacant for 30 years, and he's going to try and go in there and restore that building and turn it into a state-of-the-art storage facility, an automated facility. So it's really, I think, a good improvement for the town. The other thing is they're going to be putting in a solar canopy over a portion of the parking lot, the south end of the parking lot, and that canopy is, like 50 by 320 feet long. It's substantial in size. I think it covers 26 of the handicap spaces, or not handicap, but van accessible and truck spaces. So that's a big plus. And I think the other thing to think about is that the existing building has never had any infiltration for stormwater to the bottom, to the ground. Basically, it runs over the surface, the parking lot, then it goes directly down into the wetland. So both the existing building and the new building are retrofitted with an infiltration system so that we would be putting that water back into the groundwater instead of direct discharge into the wetland. So I think there's a lot of benefits to the project, and hopefully those, would be appreciated.
Questions from the board?
Just one more comment, I'm sorry. We did get comments back from the peer reviewer for the engineering and for the traffic study, and those were reviewed by Ty and Bond, and then like I said, we had responses from WDA, and a lot of those items are addressed in the proposed conditions.
So the reviewer reviewed the responses
Yes.
and agrees that they've been addressed, or do they still have questions?
Most of them were addressed, yes, and that's reflected in the
Well,
documents.
there's a 30-page response, so I'm guessing most, it's hard to address all of them, but the ones that weren't addressed were considered minor.
You're right, a lot of them were questions about clarifying what the items were.
So are there any outstanding questions from the town side peer reviewer?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
First, under construction and site development, normally don't we put in hours of construction? And I didn't see that in there. Jenny, am I missing that?
I'm sorry, what was the
Usually we put in hours of construction, and I didn't think I saw that in there.
I didn't add that. I can certainly add it in. It's, I think the board discussed this at the last meeting, and it goes by the noise bylaw, which is already in place, but we can add it in you see them.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see the hours in there essentially. The other thing that I had raised before was the exiting of construction vehicles. And I was concerned about construction vehicles exiting onto the Milk Street extension versus exiting onto Route 9. And I don't know if there's any resolution or discussion further about that, just because of the way, you will need earth, I assume, various construction vehicles with earth and so forth, and I'm concerned about, exiting onto that Milk Street extension and, then from where they're going, and I'd wondered whether they could all, I'd prefer to see them exit out on Route 9, quite frankly, when they wouldn't run into traffic problems coming on that extension.
The truck traffic, they wanted, way in the fire department actually wanted everything to go to Milk Street and then that way, so they could come up the hill and go over the hill. So do you see any issue with having construction vehicles exiting out onto 9 that way?
I don't see an issue. I don't.
I don't think it'd be a problem, exiting that way. Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like it'd be a big problem from either the state highway or just the site generally. It doesn't seem like it'd be an issue now.
Okay, to me, that was kind of one of the important things I was concerned about as far as the construction went. And that would be great if you could do that, just because I can see those trucks coming out on there, and I could see people flying up that Milk Street extension and, would cause a problem. So I would like to see a condition whereby construction vehicles exit onto Route 9
Okay.
other than Milk Street
Seems reasonable,
extension.
yeah.
Those are my two major questions.
I did have a question. And I had asked a couple of times about communications with Mass DOT as far as the access to the Milk Street on-ramp, I guess it's called, the Milk Street.
Yeah.
If you go to your main site plan, it indicates that Milk Street was laid out with a state layout in 1962. There's a reference to that layout, I believe it's number 5240. Do you have a copy of that layout? Because I could not find it.
Of what's the
The
plan?
state layout? I mean, I assume you reviewed it when you,
Yeah, well, if you go to the existing conditions plan, it actually shows the line work on there and the layout as it is today from that record plan based on the survey.
can you go to that page?
Yeah, you have.
In your original site plans?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, sheet EC 40. It's like the third sheet in the original set.
With sheet number?
Those are the architectural, so you want to go to our site plans?
Yeah, these are the wrong plans, Jenny. Go to the first one. No, I think this is the right one.
There you go, yep. And then I think it's the third sheet. Yeah, that's actually the best overall view, but you can see, you see where the skating rink building is at 161 Milk Street, and the parking lot that is to the south of that. Just to the left of that, you can see the two dark solid lines that come off of Route 9. That's the layout, and at the time it was laid out by the state back then. You had the piece coming, two sections basically of Route 9 there, it's split. So it could go under the highway for the access north, or it could turn and have the ramp that goes up to Route 9. But that's been the layout since the 50s.
Right, I guess what I'm struggling with is I don't see I see the one-way there, but I don't see the section. I'm concerned with the vehicles leaving the driveway and taking that left to get to Milk Street.
Leaving?
I don't, so when they leave the driveway at,
So right here, so when they're, right there's the exit from the
so
site.
all
so-
traffic coming out of that driveway is going to turn right to go up towards Route 9.
Yeah, they've gotta
And
go
If they
right,
want to
yeah.
get to Milk Street, they have to take that left turn.
Right here?
Can't do that.
Right, that connector, yeah. So they would come up here and they could take that left there.
Right.
Yeah,
And then they have to take a right.
they have to take a right, yeah.
Okay, But my concern is that first left turn.
Right here?
Yeah, I'm concerned that DOT, and I believe this was the case, and I don't know when I was hoping to find the layout, but I believe that DOT restricted no left turns down that little side street.
I actually reached out to District 3 about that question after our last hearing, actually. And I spoke to them if that was restricted, and they said no. They said
And they
left
said
turns
no.
are allowed.
Okay, so you have your access permits from DOT, or you're still trying to get those?
That's in the process. We've been working with the DOT, specifically with the site access points, just to make sure that what we're proposing is going to be okay for them, so that we don't get to the end of this process and have trouble with the DOT. So we've been working closely with them, and we've sent them the plans as they've been updated, as well as the traffic study, and they don't have any major concerns with site access.
All right, I guess my reluctance is moving forward without something from DOT, but if you've had that discussion with them, then I'm going to let that
Yeah,
issue go.
just one other point on that. The project is unique that it has, excuse me, as the existing entrance and exit on Milk Street and also on Route 9, both being state highways. So we were actually told that you could start even construction on the project since you have two access driveways already on those streets as they are reviewing to issue their permit. But we've heard nothing from them that they have any issues with anything that's been submitted yet. They have accepted these driveways, and we specifically reached out for that one question that you just asked about.
That's fine, I just hadn't heard anything about it, and I've brought it up a couple of times.
And if I can add to, the DOT process is actually different in that they won't actually issue a permit to us until we have local approvals. So,
Well, we're
so the
trying to get
permit's
there.
not issued, and not issued, we have to go through the review process. We just wanted to make sure that we weren't going down a road that, wasn't going to make sense to them.
Okay, well, I don't want to hold up local approvals waiting for DOT, because I may,
Thank you.
may be blue in my face. That's all I had. We've all gone through the conditions. It is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to ask a question or address the board?
Can we just run through the conditions
Want to
briefly?
do that first, and then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
okay,
then-
why don't we do
then
the
comment.
conditions first, and then you may have, if anyone has questions on those, that's a good idea, Hazel. Jenny, do you want to take us through those?
Sure. So it just starts out with the general conditions. They have to record the decision with the Registry of Deeds. It's limited to what's proposed in the plans with the recent revisions. Number 3, the on-site trash containment and dumpster facility has to be located in the designated area. 4, the planning board, through its agent, reserves the right to hire outside consultants or inspectors as necessary. If the permit is not exercised or use has not commenced within 3 years of the date this decision is recorded, unless the planning board finds good cause, the permit will be null and void. The applicant's responsible for filing any other permits or approvals that may be required by another town, state, or federal entity. The planning board acknowledges that the plans referred to in this decision may be subject to modification. That's our standard condition there. And then failure to comply with any of the conditions will be considered a violation and grounds for immediate revoking. Prior to construction, the applicant shall provide a complete construction schedule for the project. Prior to construction, a pre-construction meeting between town staff, including the Director of Planning, Building Commissioner, Town Engineer, to be held at the DPW office, really just to go over the construction schedule. We have the B-wall easement, which was shown on that other plan. And that easement would be received prior to the issuance of the building permit. Also, prior to the issuance of the building permit, the shop drawings of all materials used on site need to be submitted to the DPW for review and approval prior to the commencement of construction. So that includes things like manhole frames and covers, pipes, gate valves, etc. The applicant will need to provide the town an erosion and sediment control performance security in the amount of $72,000 for erosion control. In addition, a $7,000 cash security to be provided for emergency purposes. And those items would be returned at the end of the project. During construction, we ask that a copy of the decision should be kept on site so it can be referred to. All construction activities, of course, should comply with the zoning bylaw and planning board rules and regulations. Unobstructed road access with a width of no less than 20 feet shall be provided during construction for first responders to be able to get onto the construction site. Any work in the right-of-way is subject to the DPW rules and regulations. During construction, the site must not cause dust or debris or leave the premises. We suggest keeping a water truck on site, which is pretty standard. There needs to be a daily cleanup of construction debris. 20, the applicant shall provide appropriate erosion control methods such as silt fences or straw wattles. The environment and
Jenny, can I interrupt?
Yes.
You're going to add a bullet there for the hours of construction?
Yes, hours of construction, and
So you're going to have to renumber or just add it to one of those numbers?
I'll have to renumber.
Okay.
And then I was also adding the construction traffic must exit
Okay,
onto Route 9.
great, perfect.
So environment and stormwater, the stormwater management plan must be reviewed and approved by DPW prior to the building permit. The applicant will make modifications to the site plan design where necessary as directed by the engineering division. The applicant shall check all stormwater and erosion control management features before and at the end of each construction day. The owner and site contractor shall sign and submit stormwater permit requirements. For fire protection, all locked gates will require the installation of a rapid access key, a Knox box, for the fire department. All fire hydrants shall be painted red. For lighting and noise, the outdoor lighting needs to conform to the zoning bylaw. And any lighting mounted on the exterior of the building must be installed with light shields to prevent light from spilling over the property lines. The applicant shall construct sidewalks as shown on the plans to facilitate pedestrian safety, internal and external to the site. Any sidewalk designs must be submitted to the town engineer and Department of Public Works. Condition 32 should not be in there. That's for a different project.
Well, you got one of your numbers back then.
Yeah. Any landscaping, the applicant shall complete all landscaping as per the plans provided with the application, and it must be completed prior to the certificate of occupancy. Until the final certificate of occupancy, the Applicant will be responsible for maintaining the landscaping and all plantings on the approved landscape plan. All trees shall have root ball cages removed and inspected in the hole by the tree warden. Any landscaping identified as being transplanted is subject to full replacement as determined by the tree warden. The applicant shall provide adequate snow storage in the areas on the project plans. The applicant shall continue to work with the town engineer to mitigate any potential traffic impact concerns as specified in Ty and Bond's traffic comments and Chapel Engineering's responses. The project proposal is subject to the Mass DOT permit and any conditions they set forth. No work can occur in the area within the jurisdiction of the Mass DOT until a permit is issued. And then a minimum of 14 days before a request for a certificate of occupancy, the applicant will contact the planning office to schedule a site visit to review conformance with the board's approval. And then prior to the first certificate of occupancy, all plans shall be verified by as-built plans. That is the end.
I didn't realize you added that bullet about the Mass DOT, so that's probably would have forestalled my question.
Oh, yes.
All right. So now I'll turn to the public. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to ask a question, address the board on this? Okay, seeing none. Any further questions from the board? We have a motion.
Okay.
You can
All
go.
right. I move the planning board approve the special permit and site plan pursuant to the rules and regulations relative to special permits under section 3.5, 5.1, attachment 1, use regulation table of the zoning bylaws of the town of Westborough and MGL chapter 40A, section 9, and pursuant to the rules and regulations relative to site plan review under section 3.1 of the zoning bylaws of the town of Westborough, subject to the following conditions, which we've just read.
I second that motion.
Any discussion?
The only thing I would say is subject to the following conditions with additions that we made this evening.
Accept that?
I accept that.
Okay, so
And the
we-
removal of 32.
And the remove, well, that would be included in the, I guess, in the changes we made tonight. Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, that's 5-0. Thank you. Good luck, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're here for the next one, too?
Saloni from my office.
Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is a continuation of the public hearing to modify the commercial component of special permit TOV 2014-1 for Village Commons at 1 Gleason. Jenny, do you have any opening remarks?
So as previously discussed at the previous planning board meeting, the applicant provided the parking plans for the board to choose from, and the board chose essentially the one with the most parking while leaving a little more open space in that center area. And so that was reflected in the plans submitted by the applicant. In addition, these plans were reviewed by the town engineer and the community development director, and we came up with the list of suggested conditions that are in my memo per the comments heard during the hearings, and then any comments from other departments and
Jenny, does
committees.
this include, we talked about the parking at the rear of the development, which is not on this plan, but is that, I thought that was kind of part of our approval on parking.
Are you talking about changing the parking?
We were going to add some spaces, I thought, on the rear of the property down, because there were a couple of places where there were going to be some spaces available. I don't see it on this particular plan, but one of the plans that we were shown showed some additional parking spaces at the rear of the property.
Hazel, it does.
Am I looking at the wrong?
D2, looks like it has 4 additional spaces at the rear.
Yeah, see, I'm just looking at what I got at the moment, which is this one.
Site plans.
Oh, sorry, okay,
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
all right. I just wanted to make sure that those, were also included, because the plan we looked at, no, I'm talking about the ones back there.
Up here in this call-out box. D2.
Yeah, up here, yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones I'm talking about, yeah, the ones way at the rear of the property.
Yeah. No,
That's
he-
why I
he-
couldn't
he's got it
find
up.
them.
He didn't see the, she
Yeah, I
didn't see the
them.
cutout box.
I got it. They weren't on this,
Those are the existing and then
that's why I got confused. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I have to log in remotely to pull those plans up. I thought I had them on my thumb drive, I don't.
The other question I have, and is the fact that the original plans for the landscaping around the commercial building called for a paving around the building itself, like a terrace type thing that was going to run all the way around the building. I see that has been removed, and we're going to have grass on there, but I don't really see, I was trying to figure out the access to the commercial building, the dark green thing that's just going to be, I don't know what that is, but there will have to be a change of some sort, I think, to the original landscaping plan, which is quite different around the existing commercial building than it is now. Here's the original. We're now looking at this. What? So it's-
This is Saloni Chetta from WDA Design Group. This is the proposed layout and material plans. So the existing commercial building has a paved walkway access towards all along between the two buildings, between the residential building and the commercial building, and then towards the right side. So that'll be the south of the commercial building. There is a proposed paved, that's all paved access. So there is an existing door, and then that's the access there. And towards the,
I'm just zooming in for you.
yeah.
But the existing doorway was on the right-hand,
Right.
looking at it, the
This is-
right-hand top corner. This is where the existing, I think there's a cupola there perhaps, and so that's where the existing main entrance to the building was.
Yeah, this is a sheet C3. If you could please go back to C2, scrolling up. So the existing, so the other door, the one that you just mentioned, there is another walkway all along that door. You can see the gravel band toward the left. That's the gap between the building and the walkway. So go further right and north. Go up a little further up. That whole walkway is the access to the existing building.
But, so what about the access to the main entrance, which is where it was on
That's the main
the
entrance.
main entrance is,
That is the main entrance.
there's a doorway on the left-hand side there, I believe, presently.
That is where the main door entrance is. So you can see from Fisher Street, you can see that main door, and that walkway leads to that main door you can walk right off the existing sidewalk straight into the main door.
I think it's right here. There might be a
It's right
second,
here.
there
See
might
that
be,
bump
Oh,
out?
maybe, all
That's
right.
where it is.
There's a colored plan that we
Okay.
shared for the
there might be a
landscape.
second exit somewhere on the
Yeah,
building, but
there
it's
is a
not the,
door down there
yeah, I would
because
assume there would be
it's
some.
quite low where it needs to be filled in.
That's
There's
right.
a real problem with the grading there.
Right.
But are you concerned that you're losing the trees?
No. My concern was access to this building because I know there's a doorway here and also the land goes in like this. I mean, if you look at it, the doorway is, God, it's got to be 4 or 5 feet below grade
Right.
is access to that particular doorway.
Okay, so are you comfortable with the answer, or do you have?
No, that's fine, but as I said, they'll have to come back, I think, to design review at this point to get final approvals on the landscaping, and that's fine with me. Jenny, is that not correct?
Correct, because they also need to review the architectural plans as well. That is mentioned as a condition.
Okay, that's fine. If they can come back to DRB and DRB can discuss this, that's fine. I just want to make sure that there is a problem with it now, so something does need to be done.
So are we good for now? Or any other questions? Jenny, I had one question on just the wording, and I don't like to wordsmith these too much, but numbers 5 and 6 on the conditions to address the affordable units. So there'll be a total of 4 affordable designated units in the new building,
Okay.
right? Or some, because that's in addition to the 3, and then when you say it in the bullet 6, a total of 4 for Village Commons in this special permit, since we're still talking about the same special permit, is it a total of 4 or a total of 7? Right, because there's 3 already, and he's
I see
adding
what you
4.
mean.
I just felt like it was a little unclear that we're ending up with 7 affordable
How
units.
about an addition of 4? An addition of 4 in this special permit
I'm
modification?
going to let you reword it. I'm good. I just wanted to point out that it seemed a little cumbersome.
No, I agree.
I don't want to,
What number was that, Mark?
numbers 5 and 6?
No.
And I think the applicant knows that, right? I mean, we're not, you're going to end up with 7 total. You're going to end up with 7 total affordables. Okay. Not surprising you with that. Okay. Farouk. Farouk, just name it for the record again, please. Introduce yourself. So-
Trustee of the condominium complex that we're trying to build.
Okay, thanks, Farouk. I hate the formality of it, but we have to do it every meeting, so it's okay. All right, that was the only thing I had. Do we want to go through all of these conditions one by one, or before we go to the public? Or you think?
It's up to the board. The last one I'd suggested, because I did see some people in the audience that I thought might be interested in making comments. I don't know there's anybody here on this particular project.
All right, well, I'm going to turn to the public. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the board or ask a question on this? All right, has everybody had a chance to go through these conditions and?
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I have one question.
John,
Sorry.
go ahead.
How are we qualifying a certified project manager?
As approved by the Director of Planning and Building Commissioner, so.
But I mean, what are the qualifications?
Jenny, do you have a qualification that you could, like, doesn't, I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but have you seen any type of credentialing board for this, or?
There is a certification that you can get for project management, yes. And so that person would have to, show their certifications that they are a project manager. A lot of construction companies hire them, or developers hire them, and that's their title. I can't remember, I honestly can't recall the exact certification, but there is a certification process for it.
Should we have something about experience that's involved? Are you going to look into their experience? I'm just worried,
mean,
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of relative to who's looking at it for experience, and I would stay away.
I'm just trying, I just don't want it to be like a fly-by-night project manager that has his, their certification, but it doesn't have the experience to get this project where it needs to be. That's my only, I don't know what you would put in there, if anything, but I'm
I
just.
don't know, Jenny, would you be requiring a resume essentially from the project manager, or you wouldn't require anything like that?
That would be really hard for us as staff to review resumes of a project manager unless it was someone that we were hiring, which in here, there is a condition, as with most of the decisions, that if we feel like there needs to be someone hired, that's what we have, the performance security for, and any other security that we can hire an outside consultant. I'm sorry, not the performance security, but we can ask for funding to hire an outside consultant if the project needs
Well, I
it.
think the fact that it says certified project manager to be approved, I think that probably covers us. I don't know, we cannot dictate the person who is hired by the applicant. We can ask for certain qualifications, which we have here as certified, and if there is a particular certification which project managers need to get before they're interviewed or used by a project, I would think that is sufficient if there is a certification process that they need to go through.
So the other question I have with it is, it says that the applicant shall hire a certified project manager to be approved by the Director of Planning and Building Commissioner at the time of the building permit application. Should we put some language in there that the project manager needs to be hired for the duration till the project's complete?
I can add that wording.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Can you remind me which
Yeah.
number this is? Oh, I see it, 15.
Yeah, I like that.
Do we want to specify that the position of project manager needs to be filled for the entirety of the thing?
Yeah.
Not the particular one in
That's
case
fine,
there's
yeah.
issues?
I just want there to be a project manager for
Right,
the.
and you want the person to be there the entire time to make sure the
Well,
project gets
I
finished.
think,
Or
I
if-
think
I
to
mean, if-
John's point, it doesn't have to be the
Yeah.
same person.
Right.
If, that first person moves on to another position somewhere, right?
But I do want
wanna
it to
hold up.
defer back to Director of Planning and Building Commissioner. If there's another project manager that's going to be hired
Right,
in the middle of it, they have to.
and that replacement needs to go,
Yeah.
be approved by the Director of Planning and the Building Commissioner.
So what's the process of Farouk notifying Jenny that someone has left the position?
Yeah, there's been a change in project managers.
Yeah, I would want immediate notification as soon as it's changed.
Well, maybe that should also be in there.
Any changes to the project
applicant shall
manager.
notify.
So we're going to add a condition that, that a certified project manager be the sole point of contact for the duration of the project, and any changes in the project manager
Position.
position will be, the director of planning will be notified immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have two questions regarding the order of conditions. May I?
Sure.
Firstly, point number 17, it mentions prior to issuance of a building permit, a swept path analysis for the largest fire apparatus shall be provided for review and approval by the fire department. I believe during the initial review of the revised plans for phase 2, the fire department did review the plans and gave us a confirmation over email. I believe it was October 23rd, that a swept path analysis is not required and that they are satisfied. Since there are no changes in the driveways and the pavement areas, particularly no turning radii are changing from the initially approved plan, I think that,
So you didn't do a swept path analysis?
no,
Okay, and the fire department said that was okay?
that was okay. That was on October 23rd, I believe.
Okay.
Did they do a swept path analysis on the first project?
I'm not sure, it wasn't part of the approved site plan set, but I imagined it would have been done at that time.
Or you could just put a swept path analysis if necessary after that terminology for the largest fire.
Or you could just
apparatus.
add, unless the fire department determines that it's not needed.
Yeah. So just maybe some qualifying language in there will take care of that problem.
What date did you say that was?
October 23rd. It was an email forwarded to us by the town clerk.
I might have to look in my email. I don't see it in the folder, but I believe.
Well, I think if we put the language in that we've suggested, that would really cover it for you, Jenny.
Yeah, we could even say, prior to the issuance of building permit, if required by the fire department.
Sure.
Fine.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yes,
I don't want to surprise you if the fire department changes their mind and decides they want
they
it.
must require one, then we are happy to provide it, but
Okay.
that's the communication we received, so.
And you said you had a second question?
Yes, that's regarding point number 36.
36?
Okay.
So this mentions no more than 4,000 gallons per day shall be allowed for the sewer capacity for the project modification, and then goes on to saying that the gallonage may be split between existing structure and proposed residential building. And then it requires for this split gallonage to be recorded at Registry of Deeds as a restriction. Question here is, according to our calculations per 310 CMR 203, which is the standard for flow criteria calculation for sewage, the total required gallonage for the residential building with 36 bedrooms would be 3960 GPD. So that's pretty close to 4,000 gallons. It leaves like 40 gallons for the existing structure. So we'd just like to understand the calculation behind this 4,000 gallonage allotment, because even the most conservative use of the existing structure would require at least 320 GPD, even if like it's used as a daycare center or, so,
So you're saying the existing building that's there today wouldn't have enough gallonage?
yeah,
What the conditions are proposing?
sorry.
So we're proposing 4,000, and you're saying that,
That would be less for both the structures together. That would suffice for the residential, but not for both of them together. And yeah,
and what did
There
you,
was some conversation with Lisa about this, I remember. I don't know what the final decision was, but I think she came back and said she was comfortable with the project and what was proposed for the usage.
Yeah, she was comfortable with it. This condition came from her. I'm trying to find her actual comments in here. And the 4,000 gallons was discussed quite a while ago in the very beginning of the project. So these are her comments here.
I'm fine with whatever Lisa said.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what your concern is. I guess I would say that any modification you'll have to go through engineering for, because this,
Yeah.
unless she was mistaken by not including the commercial,
I have a
this was the
suggestion on this.
discussion.
I'm sorry, Jenny.
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
that's okay. Go ahead.
Can we say any exceedance, in that paragraph 36, can we say any exceedance of the flow from the commercial building from the established maximum must be approved by the town and DPW or engineering in the future, or it will result in, but may not be limited to fines. So that would
That is
give you a
okay.
chance to, particularly if we come up with more sewer capacity, that might
that
give
is
us
okay with us.
some
yes.
relief there. Are you guys,
That's
you
fine.
know what I'm saying? That, you know,
Yeah,
if
right.
engineering says it's okay to go a little bit over 4,000, then leave it up to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to engineering really to make the decision on the Department of Public Works as to whether they have the sufficient capacity and whether they want to give any extra themselves. I mean, I think it would be on their recommendation that any changes would be made.
I hate to, you know, prevent a potential use there over 50
No, that makes
gallons
sense.
per day or
That makes
something
sense.
minuscule. Give the DPW and engineering the chance to
Yeah.
work with the applicant on that.
And I think in the initial discussion, it wasn't realized that it was that close. I think the initial calculation was that it was lower.
Yeah, I think it was somewhat lower, that it would, yeah, that's what my memory is.
All right, so are you comfortable with that condition modified so that you can go to engineering and ask them, once you've established a use for the commercial building,
Yes,
you can go to them and ask them if that use is going to be acceptable for
that is acceptable.
sewer flow capacity?
Yes.
Are we just going through one by one here?
No, I don't think we're going through
All right.
everything, we're just throwing out questions.
Okay.
Okay. Wait 1 second. Farouk, are you comfortable with that resolution that the 4,000 gallons is a cap, but if you establish a use for the commercial building where you need to exceed that, you can go to DPW and ask them for a little more. And
That's how you want to do it?
It seems at this stage that would be,
Okay.
okay.
Because I was under the impression that we already had applied for sewer connection for the commercial building, and they had approved that 2 years ago.
It
And
could
then
well
now
be.
this 4,000, I know.
But, yeah, the 4,000 is capped for the two buildings, the 19 units and the commercial. So you have to come up with a proposal of how you're going to allocate that, and that has to be approved. And what we're saying is that if you want to allocate most of that for the residential, and then you come up with a use for the commercial, and that takes you over the 4,000, then you can go to DPW and engineering and ask them for a little bit more.
But it is totally up to them to make the decision. I mean, in other words, at this point, we're capping it, but that doesn't take away your opportunity to go and talk to.
Well, let's say it's not,
Department is what
I don't
you're
know if it's
saying.
totally up to them, because theoretically, they could come back and ask us to increase it too.
They could actually potentially say no, right, to the commercial?
In theory, yeah. In theory, yeah. They could say no.
Yeah, because all that's left is about 40 gallons, because 3960 is what's used for
So-
that at the 110, but 110 is a very high
We-
number. Yeah.
We can continue this if you want, and we can go back to engineering and keep going around on this if you want to.
Well,
But
the other
I'm
thing-
comfortable with the 4,000 at this point. It seems clear to me that that's what engineering wants. And it's up to you to come up with a way to allocate that sewer.
All right,
Because they had 4,000 on this original, on the original proposed project with the two office or commercial buildings, correct? Yeah, so I remember Lisa coming up saying, you can do whatever you want with this new apartment complex, but you're only going to get your 4,000. Like you said, you can allocate it any way you want, but you're only going to get 4,000 gallons. So,
I'm okay with 4,000 gallons on this 19 units. I'm fine with it, but my only concern is I don't know how you calculate the commercial aspect of it.
So
Do you have
Farouk,
a-
you were originally allocated 4,000 gallons for your commercial units. For all, was it 3 buildings you were originally going to do?
2 buildings.
2 buildings, 3 units, whatever. So 9,000 square feet, I think it was, right? You were originally allocated 4,000 gallons per day. And what DPW is saying is you have to stay within that 4,000 gallons per day. So if you're replacing the commercial, the next phase of commercial with residential, and you want to use up the 4,000 on that building, that's your choice. But you have to stay within that 4,000. And what we're suggesting is that we add a condition, or add to this condition and say, if you do have a need for more, you can go to engineering and not have to come back to us.
Okay, I just hope, okay, when the time comes, I hope they'll go along with it, but, okay. But the 4,000 is
Again,
enough for my.
we're at a position now where there's a sewer moratorium. In the future, that may not be as difficult for us to, stomach.
we
as
can't
far
give
as
it today,
capacity.
but I know that we want the project to be successful. And if there's capacity in the future, I don't see why we can't do it then, but we just can't do it now.
I think that's true.
I'll have to do some calculations to see if we can fit both of them into 4,000. It should be enough, I think, personally. Being an engineer myself, that's way too high, 110 gallons per bedroom. Nobody uses that much, But that's just the code, the way you go by.
Right.
So if we could somehow slip it down to, say, 90 or 80 or 90, 100 gallons per bedroom.
I don't think that's negotiable, based on the number of bedrooms. I think that's building code, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're asking us to change a state statute, probably.
If I may suggest just this language, remaining flow shall be set as the maximum permitted flow for the commercial property and recorded as a restriction at the registry of deeds. This, when does that really happen? Like, after the units are occupied and then a approximate like usage of the residential building is established. Just that is a little bit unclear. It's, if we could just modify that language and give that flexibility to transfer the
Okay,
excess.
so I think it should be prior to occupancy permit of the commercial building. So the remaining flow should be set as the maximum permitted flow for the commercial property and recorded as a restriction at the registry of deeds prior to issuance of an occupancy permit. So once you have a proposed use for that and determine the amount of flow that's going to the commercial building, if it's under the 4,000, then you just file the restriction and you're good. If you need to go over the 4,000, I suggested adding any exceedance of the flow from the commercial building from over the established maximum in the future would require approval from town DPW or engineering. Which do we want to say? Engineering?
The engineering division of the DPW.
Okay. Or it will result in, but it may not be limited to fines.
So I don't have to record that, we need to modify that. They're saying, nope, put it in the registry of deeds that he cannot go any higher than that, right?
You're going to have to record that restriction before you get an occupancy permit on the new
Right, that's
commercial
what she,
building.
yeah, was saying.
But the maximum allowable flow at that point would be determined by the engineering department. So if they say the maximum allowable flow is 4,000, then you have to stay within that. But if you go to them and you say, look, I've got a proposed use for the commercial building, this is going to bring me a little bit over, can you work with me on this? We're giving them the authority to do that.
Okay. I just don't want to run into a situation where.
Well,
they're gonna
Farouk,
start cutting back
there's
on
an
my
easy
units.
solution, right? You just scale back the number of bedrooms.
I mean, I
Right,
thought
if
you'd
you-
already had
you-
this discussion with Lisa, and that this had been decided. It was going to be 4,000 gallons, and that was the discussion you'd have with Lisa on this. And I'm not particularly concerned, I mean, I feel at this particular time, since that was engineering's decision on 4,000 gallons, I'm not really in favor of changing this language at this particular time. And if there's a change in the requirements that come through, if there's more sewer capacity available at a later date, if you want to come back and do that, that's fine. But at this particular time, I thought we decided that the 4,000 was the 4,000, and you'd agreed to that. I see no reason to change this language.
Well, I don't think we're substantially changing it. You don't agree with the additions?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that.
Well, I think the
it says-
clarification on the occupancy permit is important so that they understand when they have to file that restriction at the registry.
That's fine on that basis, but I
Okay, and
think
you
other
don't
than
think,
that,
and you don't,
I thought this had been decided already, and their discussions had been had as the 4,000 gallons, and you'd agreed to the 4,000 gallons. So I don't see any reason to change this particular language with that. If there's a time to come back, and time occurs, there's more sewer capacity available to the town.
and I'm trying to avoid a situation where he has to reopen the special permit, because one could argue that
yeah.
that's not a de minimis change.
Yeah, but what I don't like is the fact that it opens it up in the sense that, what is an argument that comes up about what is the increase? All right, I've decided I need X number, and, that's the number. So we end up in negotiation as to whether he wants this amount or who wants this amount. So I'm trying to avoid that, because there was a flat number that I thought had been decided on.
I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
I would just say that, the engineering department would need to definitely review any overages in what the flow is. That is what they agreed to, and then in the beginning of this discussion, they did say that it was 4,000 gallons that they were agreeing to for the whole project, and understanding that it's essentially being reallocated because you had proposed initially more than the one commercial building. And that's essentially what we're telling every developer is that, that's what we're working with for sewer flow. I think for the addition that it must be reviewed and approved by the engineering division, I think that's an appropriate addition. It is already what they would have to do, but it kind of clarifies that point. And then, of course, the prior to the issuance of the occupancy permit, I think that just further clarifies it. It doesn't really change what was required initially. It's just clarifying the point.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to draw a line in the sand on the sewer in the sense that the next developer that comes in who has some sewer allocation and wants to, change from a commercial use to a residential use, are we going to give them a little bit more and then the next one a little bit more? And now all of a sudden we're eating up. I mean, I don't necessarily know that we have the authority to override that moratorium.
No, so the sewer flow is decided by the engineering division. It's not decided by the planning board. So this condition is kind of because of the moratorium that's happening right now, but it was a recommendation from the engineering department to make sure it's clear that that's the reason for it. If we weren't in a moratorium, we probably wouldn't even be discussing this at all.
Right, and I'm really concerned about the moratorium, quite frankly, because I think at this point, we have a limited amount of septic available in this town, and,
We should
you know,
discuss it with Lisa
and
first,
the allocation, which we as a planning board have to look at quite carefully as we have new projects coming in, we've got to look at this, and, to leave anything up in the air that's not a firm amount, which we've already discussed with engineering, I think would be a real mistake.
Open to future.
So we're not changing the amount. We're basically saying that if engineering wants to change it in the future, they have the authority
Why
to do
do we bother
that.
to put that language in? I don't think it's necessary language.
Because it would avoid having to open up the special permit to amend the condition.
Yeah, but in any situation, because of the moratorium at this point, I would be uncomfortable about opening the special permit unless there was, really a specific problem that we've incurred on it. I mean, that's my concern at this point, is that, I see lesser evil in opening the special permit.
Right, but 10 years from now, if the sewer moratorium is gone
will
and
be enough
he wants to
overall, it should be
propose a use for that
That's one, if we can prove it to
commercial
them, then we don't
building,
have to worry about anything.
he would have to reopen the special permit just to modify that
Then we are
condition.
within what?
110 is too
At
high
that point,
for petrol.
if the
Then we are
moratorium
within
is
our
listed,
limits.
it would be,
We are within
it
our
would,
limits, so it should be fine.
Right.
be de minimis as far as
think
the
we should
change
get that
would
clear.
go.
Otherwise,
It's while the
we're gonna end up stuck
moratorium's
with the
in
building.
there now that
Those that have 4,000.
we're in a real problem. But I think you could argue that, if someone wanted to add a de minimis amount, then fine. But if someone wanted to add a huge amount, we'd want the special permit reopened and look at it very carefully again.
I'm okay with it, what Hazel's saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'd really, again, I don't think we have to.
The same process,
I
think.
do think we have to add that language about the certificate of occupancy
Yes.
for the
All right.
deed
I
restriction.
agree with you on that.
But I think DPW and engineering made it clear the 4,000
Yeah.
is the limit. And I don't know that all we're doing is putting the onus back on them to be the bad guy on this. And
Yeah, but
maybe
it would
that's
be-
not what we
They
should be
would be
doing.
anyway, though.
Right.
So they have to approve any additional flow anyway. That's not the planning board's jurisdiction to be dictating where flow is going.
So what do you think? Should we add a condition saying that they could, or should we just limit it at the 4,000? I mean, I wish Lisa was here to give us some comments.
I know,
on
and
it.
I told her she didn't need to be here. So based on my conversations with her, I mean, that's essentially what we're talking about anyway, is that any changes would have to go through them. That's with any project, including this one. So if you need an increase in your flow that's currently allowed, then you need to go with them. Every project has a specific allowance.
Yeah, but not every project has a deed restriction with a maximum allowed flow. And that's where we get into the, once that deed restriction is filed, can engineering release that, or does it have to come back to the planning board?
I agree that it should just go to engineering and not have to come back to the planning board, where the structure is existing there. There was nothing in the original decision that said what that use should be. But I do agree with the cap, that the cap should stay there, and I really don't think that the engineering division right now will increase that.
I don't think the language that I'm proposing changes anything for the engineering, in the sense that they have the authority to regulate the sewer capacity, and that won't change with that language.
Yeah, but I don't think it's necessary to add that language. And the other thing, I mean, that's true. Why does it have to be filed as a deed restriction? Is that required in the town or law?
No,
And why is it on as a deed restriction?
that was just one of her suggestions. And
One of Lisa's?
one of Lisa's suggestions.
Because I don't think we've ever had another project I've seen that comes through here with a deed restriction on it, the one we did up on the Parkway.
I think that's a great point too, Hazel. I
Old
mean,
BJ, so I don't understand why it needs a deed restriction. And I would, that's where the problem occurs, is the deed restriction. So what I don't understand is why there'd be a deed restriction on this. It's, if it's a finding of the town and based on the sewer capacity which is available, then it's, the special permit covers this with the no more than 4,000 gallons per day. And quite frankly, I would take away the deed restriction problem.
that would solve it all.
If
We
you take-
wouldn't need to comment on the certificate
That's
of
what I
occupancy.
mean, yeah.
We just just end the sentence after maximum, the remaining flow shall be set as the maximum permitted flow for the commercial property, period.
Right, I mean,
I agree with
I've
that.
never seen a deed with a deed restriction like this. I mean, there's not a normal
Do we know
procedure.
why Lisa proposed it the way she did?
I think she just really wants to make sure that the 4,000 gallons is adhered to, but like Hazel was saying, this will be a recorded special permit, so essentially will be a deed restriction in some form.
Right, and they can pull the permit anytime. If they find that, he's exceeding, they can pull the permit.
Or issue fines.
Yeah,
We're saying that
exactly.
in
So
here, yeah.
that's why I think the town is covered.
Yeah, I
and
think
would
that's a good
take away the-
suggestion, Hazel. Let's
the deed
just take out the
restriction.
deed restriction, then we simplify it
Okay.
and put the enforcement back into town staff's hands.
Okay, I think that's appropriate.
Are you comfortable with that resolution?
Yes.
That should be okay.
Yeah. Because that's your problem, is the fact if it's a deed restriction, that's where the
Right,
problem
it's just
is.
unnecessary, I think, yes.
Can we go back to just condition 23? Temporary construction fence shall be installed to protect around the proposed project. Could we change that to be a construction fence with screening?
Oh, good idea.
Do we need to reference the plan for that construction fence as far as the location of it? Or?
I think, so sort of duplicated in condition 22.
Right, it was,
So I can just merge them together and say temporary construction. Oh, well, I see why they're separate, because one's a fence, one's an entrance.
yeah, was the fence shown on one of the plans?
Yes, both the fence
Yeah.
and entrance are shown on the plans.
Could you,
A
could
temporary
you,
construction entrance and fence with screening shall be installed.
right. And that's shown on that temporary construction entrance?
Yes.
Is that the title of the plan that shows the fence?
Well, I don't remember the title of that plan, but it's updated on the site plan set we just submitted as well. So,
All right, so Jenny, can you just research the specific plan that we're going to reference in there before you file it?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, it was definitely on the last plan because we located the parking that they wanted to
Yes.
use. And
Right, we had-
And determined it was inside the,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Anything else from the conditions?
That was it for me.
All I could find.
that's all I had.
Are you good with did you see the changes,
I did.
Jenny? Okay.
The changes that were added this afternoon? Those,
To the order of conditions?
yeah.
It's about the sending parcel.
I just clarified that I can pull that one up so you can see it.
It just basically says if the town doesn't accept the sending parcel, what do you do?
Can you point out to where this?
It's
At the very end.
in orange on the number 51, 52, and 53. It may not be on that copy.
You might not have seen it yet.
Does somebody have an extra
Because it was
paper
just,
copy for her?
Starts on the preceding page. Is that your only copy? You're gonna use
This
it?
is new, that they just added this afternoon.
is that what you're referencing, the sending parcel?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Just 51, 52, and 53.
the 90 days is what Farouk and I had discussed, that the deed shall be provided within 90 days. Any extensions shall be requested to me as the Director of Planning, and then a decision at a regular meeting. So it's not something that will require a formal hearing. It will more so be me relaying to the board that he's requested an extension, and this is the reason, and your decision. If the town meeting declines to accept the deed, because that does have to go through town meeting, then the applicant shall just
know.
provide
That's brand new.
some sort of restriction on that sending parcel
I mean, all this money
to
that
be
we spent to do
consistent
all of
with
this, and if
keeping
they
it
don't agree
as
to
an
it.
open space parcel.
What would that, why would they decline?
Oh, no, I have no idea.
All right.
Do you have a question on that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, what could the reason for declining be? That,
For the timing?
End of town meeting? They can come up with all sorts of reasons. We
Why would they
just want to give you an
decline
option
the
in
town
case the
The
town
meeting or
says,
timing?
It says in the green thing, what if the town does not approve
Oh,
the
yeah.
sending parcel? So,
You never know. That's a pretty, yeah, that's a.
does that mean the whole project is kaput or what?
no, this gives you an alternative
And it's
if
an
the town
alternative.
doesn't approve it.
Right.
okay.
So essentially, if the town meeting says, no, we don't want this, which probably won't happen, but I can't speak for town meeting, then you would just essentially have to put a restriction on the land that it be protected as open space.
And keep the land, okay.
Yes, but you would have to put a restriction on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Root, March is coming up soon. That's the next town meeting. 90 days is going to be right up against it. So if you want to get it in for that town meeting,
It has to go through that, right, the town meeting? in
well,
order
it
for
does
this
have to
become
go,
real?
it has to be, the sending parcel has to be accepted by the town.
Okay.
And I think, so that, it would be much better for you to get it on March town meeting than next October. Okay, so it's just, you still have 90 days, right? I think, very close to 90 days, though.
Well, I know, I get it, about March, yeah. I think most of the stuff that you asked for in the sending parcel is ready, like the survey is done, because we had the whole project, almost.
Well, I mean, I understand you want 90 days to get everything else.
Yes, I do,
but
because I
you
gotta
could
clear up
get
the
it to us-
bank and all that.
You could get it to us within that 90 days, and we
I
could.
understand
We
that.
could get that article on the March warrant, I think would be.
Yeah, usually the
be
town likes
pushing
it
it,
by the
but-
end of February.
Yeah.
Town would like it by the end of February, because usually they accept the final warrant like the third or fourth week in
I get it, yeah,
February.
yeah,
So for your own benefit, if you make sure everything's in prior to that time so they can go on the final warrant.
We can get a placeholder on that. and try and keep a warrant article available for you to move that forward if we can get it done.
Well, the sooner the better.
Yes, I agree.
Could I have my copy back? Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on this from the applicant or the board?
Yeah, I have one more. Just, I know I wasn't at our last meeting. Is everyone comfortable with, I know he had the to-do list for the other project. Are we all comfortable that all those have been completed?
Yeah, I think
We're getting there.
they were very close. There were a couple of things they were trying to work out, the engineering on that drainage issue.
Are we
Are-
comfortable enough to proceed, or is it, do we?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
It's, the-
Are the light poles in? I haven't driven out there recently.
Yes, I was there today,
Oh,
and the
good.
light
I
poles are
didn't
in.
go today.
yeah, they've
I
made
usually
great
try to
progress
drive
since, you know,
What?
the
I know
Kerrigan
That was our
stick.
big thing, so
Yeah.
if we
They've
want
made-
anything else done, this is the time.
Yeah.
Do we want to limit the work schedule just because of the neighbors? Like for Saturdays? Or did we want to have normal hours of?
Well, I think the neighbors, there's always that balance between limiting it on a weekend and getting the project done faster.
Usually we require just mornings on Saturday.
Yeah, maybe start at, 9:30 on Saturday mornings instead of 8.
And stop at 12 or 1 is the other thing we've done with, when things are right residential. Would that make a difference to you, Farouk?
You
And
tend
on
to,
Saturdays, if we cut down the hours of construction on Saturdays from, let's say, 9 to 12:30 versus, would that be all right?
These guys usually like to spend the day, when they do come to work.
Well-
It's rarely that they work on Saturdays, but if and when they do, they would like to put in a full day.
But I think you're right in the middle of a residential group and kids around and that kind of thing. So I would certainly hate to see it go by 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
So the original permit approval said that the construction hours are between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday. Sundays and holidays shall be no operation unless they receive approval from the Westborough Chief of Police.
I'd like to run it 8 to 1, just because, as I said, there are a lot of kids around. The kids are going to be outside playing or would like to be. So, I mean, I think 8 to 1 is not unreasonable on a Saturday.
well, there is fencing though around it. The kids aren't going to be inside the fence.
No, but if you're outside with your kids and you're listening to the construction and so forth, I mean, just thinking about the neighbors.
I would be fine with 9 to 4.
Through the chairman, I really don't anticipate any digging, any screening. That's the one that makes the most noise.
Right.
There's nothing like that there. Just be basically the frame and then internal work, electrical, plumbing.
It's up to the board.
I'm comfortable staying with the original hours.
Thank you.
If you feel strongly, we can discuss it further, but I'd just like to see the project get built. So
Well, so would I, but I'm just trying to think also a little bit about the neighbors on that
the
particular.
last thing I want is to come back here a year from now and have him say, well, I would have gotten it built faster if you guys,
Oh,
I don't want to,
Yeah, I'm not going to hold it up. Let's just, the hours are fine. I just want the project to be
I
completed.
do too. All right, well, maybe if you could make an effort not to work on Saturday, that I just would request from the,
well, there is a noise ordinance too.
well,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, no, I understand your point, Hazel, but with the fencing around the project, I feel, I really would just like to give them the leeway to move it along and not,
Okay.
and I understand the way contractors work. Saturdays are a work day for a lot of those guys, so. All right. All right, so once again, any further questions from the public or the board on this? All right, hearing, and the applicant, you're okay with this as amended tonight? Okay.
Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion? Anybody want to motion this?
Let me do it. All right. So, Jenny, are we using the motion on recommended motion?
Yes.
I can't find the motion.
I move that the planning board approve an application of a special permit modification of permit number 2014-1 at 1 Gleason Street for the development known as Village Commons, a transit-oriented village, as shown on the plan set entitled Site Plans for Village Commons Condominium Commercial Area Update, dated August 24th, 2023, and all other plans referenced in this decision, subject to the conditions that we previously reviewed.
And tonight's additions.
And
Any additions?
resulting from the discussion of the meeting tonight.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion? That's 5-0. Good luck, Farouk.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, we have a continuation of the special permit.
Through the
and-
chair, do we have to close the public hearing?
Oh, yeah, good call. Somebody want to motion that?
Move we close the public hearing for
1 Gleason.
special permit. I just lost my page.
Our special permit number?
Special permit application under transit-oriented village overlay district for 1 Gleason Street, also known as Village Commons.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of closing that hearing? It's 5-0. All right, now we will move on to the continuation of the public hearing for special permit and site plan review at 134 Fisher Street. I have a letter from the applicant requesting a continuation to January 9th. Read that into the record, dated December 6th, 2023, addressed to the Westborough Planning Board regarding 134 Fisher Street. On behalf of Richard Record, the owner, I request that the planning board continue the hearing scheduled for December 12th, 2023, to a meeting of the board on January 9th, 2024. Thank you for your cooperation, and that's signed Peter Barbieri, Barbieri, I don't know how to pronounce it. Esquire, Fletcher, Barbieri, Fletcher and Tilton, who is the attorney for the applicant and owner. It is a public hearing. Were you here for? Okay. Okay, yeah, 42 Lackey Street is not on the planning board agenda. We will be having an open space meeting, and it is on that agenda, but we had to reschedule that, most likely for next week.
Is it in conservation or is it on the
It might be
Board
on
of
the
Select?
Conservation Commission? Yeah, so the Conservation Commission meets in a different, across the street. Yeah,
I was with the Conservation Commission, they said it's on this floor on the opposite side.
no, the Conservation Commission office is here, but the Conservation Commission meetings occur in the same meeting room as the Select Board.
I think,
The
yeah, but
Select Board's-
Select's meeting tonight.
I'm looking it up, hold on.
The Concom?
Yeah,
Okay.
so Conservation Commission is on the 3rd floor. Yes, the school department meeting room. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it might be.
Probably not. They have a lot on their agenda.
But it's also video, it's also recorded, so you can watch it. I know you may have comments, though, so you better hustle upstairs. I'm sorry, I should have asked you sooner, I thought,
Through the chair.
yeah,
Oh, do we need to vote on?
we do.
Okay, sorry.
We don't have a motion yet.
I move that the planning board continue the hearing for 134 Fisher Street to January 9th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion of that continuance? All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
We didn't close the hearing for 161 Milk Street either.
Last on their agenda.
You can motion that if you want.
Okay. I move we close the hearing for 161 Milk Street site plan.
I second that motion.
I wondered about that.
Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of closing that public hearing? That's 5-0.
John,
John? I did.
Peter.
All right, we have another continuance for the public hearing for site plan review at 165 Flanders. I have another request for continuance from the applicant, Bowler Engineering, dated November 30th, 2023. Attention, Jennifer Gingras, Planning Director. Dear Ms. Gingras, on behalf of EG America, we would like to request a continuance of the planning board hearing for the project at 165 Flanders Road until the next planning board meeting on January 9th, 2024. And that's signed Andrew Platt, who is from Bowler Engineering on behalf of the owner and applicant.
I move that the planning board continue the hearing for 165 Flanders Street to January 9th, 2024.
Jenny, are they moving on that?
Yes, they're at Conservation Commission tonight. That's the reason they had to continue.
Do we have a motion and a second?
No second.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor of continuing that? That's 5-0. All right. Director of Planning updates. Jenny, go ahead.
On December 5th, I gave a presentation on the MBTA Communities Zoning Act, and I think it went very well. There were some questions from the audience, but I wanted to take this opportunity to go over it with the board. It will be coming up for public hearing with the board, probably the first February meeting, to go over the actual zoning article prior to town meeting. Mark and I have been working with a consultant, RKG Associates, and Emily Ines with Ines Associates through a technical assistance grant for assistance with the compliance requirements, and then also an economic feasibility analysis, both of which we did receive, and those have been uploaded to the town website. I can show you where, under MBTA communities, so you can read through those and see what they say. But I did pull out some of that information here that I just wanted to go over. And then this information will also be relayed at town meeting, of course. So, as you know, we're a commuter rail community, and there are specific requirements that we have to comply with based on the state's guidelines and the number of housing units that we have. So for this zoning article, our minimum multifamily unit capacity is 1,250 units. And then they had additional requirements. You had to have a minimum of 50 acres. 20% of the district must be located in the station area. 20% of the unit capacity needed to be located in the station area. And then the minimum gross density for the districts had to be 15 dwelling units per acre. And so that is based on all three districts that we came up with, that I'll explain in the next slide. So again, considering those requirements, we came up with three districts, one at Gleason Street, one at Turnpike Road, and then one at Arrive, which is also on Turnpike Road. So the first one is on Gleason Street, and it mostly comprises of the existing Westborough Village, in addition to one other parcel over here. And that got us to over our 50 gross acres of contiguous area that we needed to have. District 2 was on Turnpike Road. That is where Park Westborough is. So we took that existing parcel, and that allowed us to meet those requirements there. And then the third one was for Arrive, which is the apartment buildings off of Turnpike Road that have been there, I think, since the 70s. So taking into consideration those three districts, we ran the numbers, or RKG ran the numbers really, and everything complies. We also had to come up with zoning parameters to be able to understand whether we meet the specifications and requirements, and this is what we came up with. So this is mostly based on the underlying zoning, except for the number of stories in Arrive. And so currently, there's 8 stories in Arrive, that's what is approved. We lowered it to 4 stories, and I can, I could get into why. It's based on the economic feasibility analysis, essentially, where currently we require a 20% affordability requirement in our bylaw. And HLC wanted us to do an economic feasibility analysis to see whether, essentially, if that's fair to developers to require that, or if we need to go down to 10. Because of the type of construction that's required over 4 stories, the 20% is not financially feasible. So that's why we lowered it to 4 stories, because it's stick-built construction instead of steel frame. And then the lot coverage, that is, we essentially just switched it, so it's a 40% open space requirement instead of the 60. The setbacks are all the same as the underlying zoning, the parking spaces are the same, and the dwelling units per acre are the same for Gleason Road and Turnpike as what is currently required. Arrive, that is the existing density.
Yeah, so all 3 of those are at that density already. Westborough Village is 12 units per acre. Park is 14 units per acre, and Arrive is 40 units an acre.
So you guys are counting existing units as towards the...
We're not, existing units have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so
It's the underlying zoning would allow for these units by right.
so this is essentially an overlay district, and we're placing it over areas that have existing housing.
So there can't be any more.
Well, they could tear it, there are some, there are some lots there, I mean,
They're just not under MBTA. They could do it under base zoning and get more units.
Right.
well, not
Currently,
only
they
that,
could
we
do it under a
have, we
special
have
permit.
highway business zoning that allows for residential, we have the depot that allows for residential, so it's not like we can't encourage more residential construction in town. I mean, the sewer moratorium is a problem, but we have pretty flexible multifamily zoning available. It's just special permit and not by right. So
We
I think
do,
this
and-
enables us to retain control of our zoning.
It was very tricky to come up with how we can meet these requirements based on what we have, the proximity to the transit station. There are a lot of factors that went into it. This is the, results with the district acreage that we had to meet, the unit capacity that could technically be allowed, and then the dwelling units per acre. So it was definitely a balancing act on how everything could work out based on all of those factors.
Is this something where you so you present this, to the state? And the state says, good job, this is what we're looking for?
Well, that's why the consultant ran the compliance model that the state put out and has advised us that we comply with this proposal. Now we have to craft the language of the zoning, which we also have a consultant to review that once Jenny's drafted it. Then it'll go to town meeting, and then it'll go for final approval to the state. I think we have to vote it first before we can ask them whether we've complied.
No.
No?
You can have them review to see if it complies.
Oh,
before
even
you
better. So
Get an opinion.
Yes, so.
once that language is ready, we can,
Yeah, we can send them a package, which I am going to do. But we're still going to go to town meeting in March. The issue that they're having at the state level is that there's only 2 people in that office that review all of these, and it's taking much longer than their quote of 90 days.
right, so we might not get our answer before town meeting.
However, yeah, our consultant was comfortable that, and has been in talks with HLC, that this does meet the requirements. And he, as part of working with Mass Housing Partnership, they have to have meetings with HLC about every town's compliance. So he's comfortable that this meets the requirements. And then for the zoning, the person that wrote the state example for the zoning is reviewing our zoning. So we're comfortable with it. But I just wanted to talk about the impact on Westborough. As you could see, most of the districts already have housing on it. So there's very minimal impact on what could actually happen or be built with this. You would essentially have to tear down most of those developments to be able to build new housing. And
And if you tore down Arrive, it could only be 4 stories, and we would get 20% affordable.
right, and one of the
We wouldn't
comments.
we don't have any affordable units in Arrive, as far as I know.
And I want to make sure that it's understood that this is not because, we don't see the need for affordable housing or housing, because this is not just affordable, it's any multifamily housing. I think that there's a huge need for that. But in Westborough, we have a lot of allowances in our zoning that allow for multifamily housing to be built. And we're working on revisions in the zoning behind the scenes right now that we will bring to the planning board to promote multifamily housing. But with the timeline on having to comply with this and the requirements that are in place, we feel that this is a good middle ground that we came up with in order to comply, but still have time to come up with a better way to accommodate multifamily housing.
Yeah, just to add to that, I made this point at the presentation. Westborough, we were way ahead of everyone else in that transit village zoning. I mean, we got an award from the state for that zone as far as encouraging multifamily housing. We have other opportunities for residential construction in town. It's just special permit, not by right. We've got 20% affordable requirements in all of our residential zone that will ensure affordable housing. And we've established a substantial affordable housing trust. I mean, this town has put a lot of money into that trust to encourage affordable housing. So I think anyone who wants to criticize us for not, I don't think they would have a leg to stand on us on that.
But you know how it looks.
But the argument could also be made is this is a very strict timeline the state put on these towns.
Yeah.
And so this gets us to compliance. This does not mean that we can't add parcels to this zoning district in the future. It's just if we have to meet this deadline so that we're still eligible for grants, this is what we're putting forth, right?
That would be good.
And so we can continue evaluating and, seeing what else we can add to the MBTA communities if we want to. It's just in order to get to that deadline, we need to have something in place.
Yeah,
And this is what's in place.
and I don't think the special permit process is that much more onerous. I mean, when I talk about downtown, that zoning is incredibly flexible. There's no minimum parking requirement. There's no side yard requirements. There's a lot of leeway. The problem is the sewer, because the lots downtown are not big enough to accommodate private sewage. So, I don't think we need to, we do have a downtown, that's the other thing, is we have a downtown study coming up that'll advise us on the zoning downtown. We didn't want to include downtown because we want to get that studied.
I don't think you can include downtown.
Well, we could, but it would be the zoning would look quite a bit different than what what we're proposing.
Right.
And it'd probably be, there'd be a commercial storefront requirement, there'd be,
No, I get it on the tight timeline. Yeah.
Right, we need more time to come up with
Yeah.
something that will work for downtown. And it's not by their deadline, the state's deadline. So timeline for this, I'm giving a presentation to the Select Board on December 19th. I will be submitting the zoning article for the town meeting warrant in January. Then the planning board will have their public hearing, your public hearing, probably the first meeting in February, and then we'll go to town meeting vote in March. That's all I'll be working on for the next 3 months.
Is this something that we have to review, a zoning review committee?
I will be bringing it to you guys, yes. Yeah. I was supposed to write it this week, finish writing it. But this week is already, it'll be done.
All right. Right. All right, let's move on then, if there's no further questions on that. Okay. Reports of board members. Do we have any reports?
I've had a couple of capital expenditures board meetings in the last 2 weeks. We finished up presentations, rated the items, and we came up with a proposal of what projects need to be completed in the next fiscal year. And we are going to meet for another month or so.
The CPA committee had an organizational meeting just to try to figure out how to get it off the ground. And at the moment, what we're doing is one member of the committee is looking at plans from other communities that have already put in place the CPA, as we are required under state law to have a plan available and a timeline. And so we'll do an update also at the March board meeting. March town meeting.
Okay. I don't see, we have upcoming meeting dates, January 9th and January 23rd. Everybody's comfortable with that, I hope? Okay, we'll be one short on the 23rd.
Said 9th and the 23rd. There's nothing else for the rest of this month?
No,
Because my calendar is all messed up.
so is mine.
Oh, I had a heart attack last Tuesday because I thought
it
I
was
have
last-
all the kids and we have a meeting. I was like, how's this going to work?
Yeah, I'm still, I have two separate calendars going, and I can, for the life of me, cannot merge the town calendar with my Google Calendar. It's driving me nuts, and I don't know why. I've shared it multiple times, so.
And I can't get rid of the, I don't know, I get it on my iPhone, and then I can't get rid of it. And then I can't put a new one on in the right way. Makes it very confusing.
Did somebody say they're not going to be at the January?
Yeah, I'm not going to be at the January 23rd meeting.
I
23rd.
need to go to my other calendar.
In February, we'll
and
be
paste
back
something in
on
there,
normal
right?
meeting dates, the first and third week of the month. It's
Under my same
just
email
because of the
address, that's the
holidays, it's
problem.
been off.
Well, we're January, we're
Silverberg,
1st and 3rd.
this one.
No, the first, it would be the January 2nd.
Right, and so, oh, I
Yeah.
see what you're saying, yeah, okay.
That might
Because
be-
we,
Yeah,
might
the
do it.
9th, right.
Oh, that was sweet.
anybody's brain will be
No,
able
no.
to process on January 2nd.
No, we have one set of minutes, November 14. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Yes. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? Is there a second?
Second.
Any changes or corrections? We ready to vote?
Kristen.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Kristen, I gave those minutes as an example for one of our new admins who's doing planning board minutes, because they're so good.
You say. There you go. Done.
All right, is that it?
I believe that's it.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor.
Done.
Didn't work.
Village Commons decision.
Said unable to add the calendar.